And we're back with the AfreecaTV StarLeague Season 17, brought to you by Well New Live Prestige Gaming Chairs. As today we're diving into Group B of the round of 24. Yesterday's matches went by in a flash, as Bisa took first place, with Light punching his ticket through to the round of 16 as the second seed of Group A, after defeating C in the elimination match. As we wonder which of our Group B players will be joining them, let's have a word with our next four contestants of the round of 24. Hi guys! Now let's kick things off with Hero. Hero, it's been a while since we've seen you in the round of 24. You must be anxious ahead of today's games. But what's most important is your current form. How would you rate your current form? I recently came down with a cold, and I haven't yet fully recovered. So I would say my condition isn't the best. Nonetheless, I guess I have to advance, right? Well, a lot of people expect you to make it through regardless. While you did end up losing in the wildcard match we had ahead of this season, you managed to storm your way through the qualifiers in one fell swoop, without a single loss. What went through your head right after the qualifiers? Well, after losing in the wildcard, I was somewhat concerned going into the qualifiers, because it's been a while since I had to do that. I was worried I might get knocked out, but things ended up going well. Now going into the round of 24, I'm similarly slightly nervous, but once I get going, I have a feeling things might once again go well for me. Well, Hero seems to be well composed today. Let's now turn our attention to Killer. You've made it into the round of 16 for 2 seasons in a row now. That must have given you some peace of mind when you were preparing for this round of 24. No way. I'm not comfortable with the group I'm in. This seems to be a very demanding group. I will really have to work for it today, it seems. An uncomfortable group to be in, with a Terran, a Protoss, and a Zerg all in all. Preparing for today must have been a challenge. Which matchup did you focus on the most? Well, versus Terran is my weakest matchup, so I focused on that. But all in all, I think I put in an equal amount of effort into prep. Well, in that case, let's have a word with the sole Terran of the group, Mind. Well, there's a lot of talk recently about your match record and how well you're doing. If you were to rate your own chances, your win rate, how high would you guess it to be? In all honesty, I don't really see why that is. I don't think I'm doing particularly well right now, so I'm not so sure today will be that easy. Now, to be fair, this is the exact vibe I always get from you. Well, it won't be easy, but I'll work hard. But then, you've said yourself recently that you have the confidence to take a clean 2-0 today to advance in first place. Is there a reason you're going back and forth like that? Wait, did I really say that? Oh, it must have just been an offhanded comment to show some confidence to my fans, but yeah, I do have this desire to make it through in first place. Mind's wish to get the first place seed is surely making Stork uncomfortable. Let's have a word with you now. Stork, you must have been displeased with your early elimination from last season, where you got knocked out in the round of 24. What have you been up to since then? Well, I kept practicing to get better as per usual. I think my form is better than last season. But seeing the opponents in my group, I get the feeling that there are still some shortfalls in my play, and that's something I've come bearing in mind today. Your first opponent today is Mind, who is aiming to make it through in first place today. Isn't that making you somewhat uneasy? Well, I looked at today's group and I came to the conclusion that if I don't get 2 wins, advancing through the elimination match will be really difficult. So, if I don't win the first match, things will get rather messy. I think I genuinely need to win the first game. Well, Stork likewise seems to have come determined to grab the first place seed today. Let's now move on to the ASL Today segment with our topic of discussion for Group B. Let's start with Hero. Please grab the mic. Throughout the last 6 seasons of ASL, you were a seeded player for 5 of them. And for the first time in 3 seasons, you are once again back in the round of 24. On top of that, there is one more variable at play here. This is both a best of 1, and you're playing a ZVZ in your opening match. Now, this must be giving you a bit of a headache. Well, you're having to play a ZVZ for the opening match is very uncomfortable. And Killer plays that matchup really well. But what can I say? I've been doing well so far. I'll have to keep doing well, right? Oh, your ZVZ is nothing short of amazing as well. Killer is somewhat of an agent of chaos and a good all-inner. Now, how did you prepare for the ZVZ, Killer? I'm fairly confident in my ZVZ, but I hold Hero in high regard when it comes to this matchup. I prepared a lot. It genuinely won't be easy. And which part of Hero's play in ZVZ do you feel is most demanding? He's a very safe player. That is something that's difficult to overcome. Got it. Well, ZVZ is a matchup whose outcome is difficult to predict. Let's now turn to Mind. Forced to drink from a bitter cup in the round of 16 last season, the poisonous snake that is Mind is getting some good news in that there are no Terrans in this group, or in his group this time around. Now, with a meager 36% win rate in TVT and ASL, your TVT win rate is rather poor in comparison with the remaining matchups. How did you feel when you learned that there would be no Terrans to contest in this group? I guess it doesn't really affect me that much. I didn't think about it too much. What matters is that I just have to focus on 2 matchups, rather than 3, which usually tends to happen. But regardless, the players in this group are really good, so it won't be a stroll in the park. So the fact you didn't have to split your attention between all 3 matchups seems to have given you some comfort when preparing. Let's now turn to Stork. In online play in February, you have a whopping 65% win rate. And the group of death is yours to conquer. Now, based on your win rate and online performance, there are a lot of expectations for you to perform. Now, the variable that stands out for you is that there are 2 Zerg players in your group. Because you lost to Action in the qualifiers, are you perhaps worried about your PvZ in particular? Well, just like Mind, I'm also in a position where I only have to focus on 2 matchups. Regardless of whether I go to the winners or the losers match, I'll be facing a Zerg. I actually think this is more of a boon for me. My win rate notwithstanding, the round of 24 is all best of 1s. If it was the round of 16, we'd be playing some best of 3s, but here it's all down to 1 game, so I'm rather concerned about that. Well, we'll have to pay close attention to how you overcome the challenges posed by best of 1s today. It's time to talk to Killer. Being the trickster you are, you've succeeded off the back of some well-timed all-ins before. Is this also going to be the case this season? Now, as things stand, you advanced to the round of 16 last season in the first place after beating both Snow and Shuttle. Are we once again going to see these decisive timings today? In any case, in a best of 1, you can beat anyone and you can lose to anyone. So I'm confident today and will do my best. Is there anything special you might have prepared for today? Are you willing to share that with us? No way. Fair enough. Keep your secrets. We'll see what happens in each game then. Now, considered the group of death by many fans online, we expect today to be a highly contested day of games. Let's hear some closing remarks from our 4 players. Mind. Recently, there really hasn't been an easy group in the round of 24. They're all difficult, so I promise to do my best today and advance to the next round. Hero. I'll do well and advance today. Killer. I too will do well and advance today. Stork. I'll do my best and deliver a good result today. Thank you. We're looking forward to some decent games today then. Thanks for the interview. You're watching the AfreecaTV StarCraft League Season 17 with Well New Life Prestige Gaming Chairs as we're heading into Group B of the round of 24. Which two players will end up heading towards the next round, we'll find out soon enough. Let's start Group B of the round of 24.
We're playing to start this off. Welcome to Group B of the ASL. We're in the round of 24, and I gotta say, I'll say it again, man, it is so good to be back.
I was so happy to cast that first day, and the fact that we get a few right in a row at the start. I love it. These groups are amazing. The map pool is pretty cool as well. And honestly, I think it's only going to get better from here, especially considering we had in Group A a few flubs, a few rushes, and poor defenses.
Yeah.
So I think it's just better games on the way.
Yeah, you know, I think we had some interesting players in Group A, but the games were pretty one-dimensional, either cheese that worked or cheese that backfired, a couple really sharp timing attacks, and I think a pretty cool TVT to end the day. Now we go into Group B. I think this is a much more interesting group. I think it's a group where it's a lot harder to call. The players who are going to advance from this group are going to be a real threat going forward, but it's hard to really say who will be the individuals to move on.
Yeah, going a little bit robot there for a moment, Tasteless. Hopefully that clears up pretty quickly, but taking a quick look at our groups again. Of course, today we have the Hero Killer Mind and Stork group. I do think this is a fantastic group. Not my overall favorite. I think some of these groups are just absolutely insane, but this one's a little bit hard to predict, I feel like. What do you think, Tasteless?
This is a tough one. This is one where, I don't know. I mean, look, this just to go big picture here for a second. I mean, this ASL, and the last few ASLs we've had have been, I think, especially interesting with Flash just out of the picture. Queen not here now. The makeup of each of these groups is really exciting. If I had to pick the two that were going to advance here for a second, I would say maybe Hero in Mind. What about you, Tastosis?
Yeah, that is kind of my feeling, but Stork's in really good shape, and don't underestimate Killer. Like, I think Killer is one of our most unappreciated Zergs. He really is legitimately strong. He's good at everything, and I can absolutely see upsets best of one against everybody, possibly. So it really feels like anything could occur here today.
Yeah, a best of one is always a brutal format, right? You never know what is, you know, is there going to be a cheese that can just knock you out? It is a moment where a good player can certainly beat, or certainly lose to, a bad player.
Mm-hmm.
So it does seem like in these best of ones, we get the players that are just clearly much better, usually playing conservative games, safe games, and the players that are the underdogs more likely to do something cheesy or risky.
Yeah.
But, you know, this is why placing high in the ASL before this one is so important, is you get to survive not having to have this best of one situation.
Which is normally where Hero finds himself. He's actually been, I believe, the most consistent player in ASL history. He's been top 4 more times than anybody. So this season, not the case. We'll see if he's able to make it through this group. Going up against Killer, who doesn't have a great win rate in ZVZ, but, you know, he hasn't played as many games. It's a volatile matchup. Just about anything can happen here. And I definitely, I don't want to make any strong predictions, but I mean, Hero is one of those guys that I always bet on. You know what I mean? Like, until he's in the round of 4, like, he has to play someone like Light or Snow or, you know, Bisu or Mini or Royal. Like, he has to play someone like that for me to really consider betting against him.
ZVZ, it's been in an interesting spot as of late. We'll talk about that a little bit more as we get into the match. But we've seen some very big changes. We, of course, saw that crazy late game where we got into, you know, the Hydra attack and Defilers, all that. That was wild. But also we've had these games where the second extractor, the natural, is taken, and a hatchery of the natural is not. So We'll talk about that more if it comes up, but we're ready to go now into Game 1, Hero versus Killer. Hey, we've got Hero here in the top right, Killer in the bottom left. And look, you know, ZVZ, it's a matchup. You can come in and out of StarCraft, and you generally know what it's going to look like. But we have had some developments that have been pretty interesting. We've had a couple, I would say a rapid increase in builds where players go pool, actually gas first and then pool really early to mine gas at a rate that is just unusual for the matchup. We've also had experimentation with like hatcheries at the ramp and long distance mining to the extractor that's at the natural.
That's right.
I hope we have more of that this season. We had a lot of ZVZs last time. This time it's a little bit more Terran heavy in the round of 24, so probably more likely to have TVTs depending on the groups. But even ZVZ in StarCraft 1 is evolving, and people are bringing new ideas.
Yeah, and that's really exciting. Of course, everyone remembers that Hive game that we had. I think it was Effort in Action that put that on, but you know, I feel like everyone is on board with having more games that look like that, although it's a really hard state to get to. Looking here, it is a fast pool there by Hero, followed up by that fast gas, so it looks like he does definitely want to get into the quicker layer. And, you know, it's cross-spawn here for Hero. So Hero going for that hatchery first, it feels like, okay, this seems pretty good for Hero, right? Since he is so far away from Killer.
Yeah, hatchery first is the best play you can ask for in cross spawns. This is super aggro, though. When you see 9-pool with Lings, it doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be speedlings. In ZVZ, it really depends. You can go 9-pool into layer. But over here for Hero, getting the hatchery out first, the spawning pool and the extractor out a little bit later, this really puts you in a pretty comfortable spot as long as you can stabilize off your second base, because you have the 2 extra drones. And in ZVZ, 1 worker is worth like what 3 or 4 workers would be in another matchup. So having just a few extra workers to mine is huge. The same is true also if you kill one of the workers on either side. It is devastating how much it slows them down.
Yeah, this is really the only matchup that has like a distinct attacker's advantage. Like you're in better shape attacking than you are defending, because if you do end up killing even a single worker, it is so substantial. Now, Killer is sending his Lings across the map immediately. Most of them, at least. A couple are scouting elsewhere. And you know, the drones are going to have to come down and defend. This was a good move by Killer to get those Lings there eventually, but because it's cross spawn, it does take a little bit longer. I do think Hero's going to save this hatchery.
Let's find out. He's got his 5 Lings there. There's more Lings coming up, by the way, and I think this may actually be speed Lings. He does turn his own Lings onto his opponent's Lings. The surround is really good here from Hero, but at the same time, so many workers have been killed off already.
Dude, what did he lose there? 4 or 5 workers? That was kind of insane.
That's a lot.
Yeah. Oh, my God. He loses another one there. That is so painful.
I thought the workers were going to come out a little bit earlier. I don't know if we're going to be able to check when the game's done. I really wasn't looking at when the pool finished. Sometimes you'll have players that will squeeze out a few more drones just to be greedy. But, I mean, this is scary. This natural can't be mined from. Killer did go for speedlings. I said earlier he might not. In some ZVZs, you don't go speedlings. This time he has it, but so does Hero. So Hero's going to come around here with a really nice flank. You know, as small as Zerglings are, Ling versus Ling, they're not slippery against each other like they are in StarCraft 2. So you can body block Ling versus Ling pretty well. So he does a decent amount of damage. He backs up. But we've got a Spire halfway done, Artosis. And for Hero, I'm not clear on where he is tech-wise, but it doesn't look like he's even mining gas.
No, he's got to make a decision here. Does he drone up so he can make spores, or does he do a Ling all-in? But I think those are the only questions here. Because he has
Ling
lost
all-in.
a lot of drones. Yeah, he's not really mining gas right now. Looks like he has that speed upgrade, and he is going across the map with these Lings. There's actually no Overlord spotting the Lings coming out, so a little bit in the dark right now for Killer. He sees these Lings coming up. He is going to want to back up, I think, to his ramp, but no, he comes up with more Lings and actually will start to push this back. Hero, he leads with a few extras there. I don't know that he has enough to break this.
I'm worried that Killer spent a little bit too much time on the low ground. If they're coming at you, you need to turn around. You know that there's only really two options here to either, oh no, he gets up the ramp. This could be the moment the Hero could actually swing this. It's going to be at least 4 or 5, no, even more coming down now.
Oh boy.
There are mutas that are producing. I have to imagine that's what's inside of those eggs. But these drones with an unfinished sunken colony, they're going to be very easy targets. We see that he's using that mine move to shift where the drones can be. He decides to abandon the sunken colony. The Spire is vulnerable right now. More Lings are going to come in. The Sunk may actually finish.
It feels like he was a bit indecisive there, honestly. That was a little bit rough, but he will end up killing some drones. He gets Killer down to 6 drones, which is what Killer had gotten him down to previously. Oh my god, he kills another one there. Another one down to 3 drones. Oh, this is huge damage. If he has Spores at home, I think he's going to be able to finish this game out.
Yeah, he's got more Zerglings hatching. There's going to be 2 ready to go. Keep in mind, 3 Mutalisks, that cannot kill a Spore that's going to morph in at this distance. So the only chance you have is to lash back out and try to kill as many of his workers as you can. But if your mutas are on that side of the back of the map, what is going to be back at home defending? And it's 1 hatch versus 2, so Hero can keep making Lings and probably overpower the ramp from the low ground onto the high ground.
It's truly a terrible situation, and Killer's had to make Lings defensively here because he knows that Hero's going to be looking to sneak some by and do counterattacks. He flies to the main, and there's only 1 Spore at each location, so both mineral patches are kind of open to harassment now. Hero's probably going to want to squeeze out another Spore or 2 to really secure his mining, but it's definitely looking better for him now since we only have those 3 drones mining for Killer.
So with Killer in this position, it's really hard to imagine him coming back. I mean, he's not dead, and don't call it over till it's really over, but there's a lot more going on right now here for Hero. Now, he's on almost the bare minimum of Spore colonies. You can see that this doesn't perfectly cover everything. I think there's a chance that the mutas, they don't have a lot of range, but you can see they can kind of pick at the drones that are just on the periphery here. But at the same time, the drone recovery here for Killer is going to be really hard to imagine. He's on, I think it's still 3 drones. Yes, 3 drones. He only has 1 building that's producing larvae, and that's his lair. So every time a larva comes out, is it going to be Lings? Is it going to be a drone? And in that case back there, we just saw it with Zerglings. Will it be 1 more Mutalisk? Eventually you're going to have to get an Overlord, right? So you can really feel how inhibiting 1 hatch is, especially when you lose workers like that.
It's pretty bad. I actually think we're going to see Killer GG momentarily here. He's just made nothing but Lings the whole time, and Hero caught on to that was really the only way for him to play this game. He's made a lot of Lings himself. There's not enough here for Killer to finish this game off.
Yeah, a very conservative position over here with the Zerglings for Hero. When he sees the Lings of Killer come up, he decides to come right out and fight it. He knows he can easily overpower this, and that's what happens. GG, game 1 goes to Hero.
All right. So, it looked a bit dire there for a moment. He did drop down to about 6 drones when we had it closer to 10 for Killer. So it did feel like Killer had a decent spot, but I think you're right. He stayed on low ground maybe a little bit too long. Should have pulled back, made the Zergling conga line on top of his ramp, and just held out for Mutalisks. But, unfortunately for him, Hero does end up taking that, and that is going to be Hero to the winner match.
I think that Killer could have done a better job retreating back to his ramp earlier. Once he went onto the low ground and saw that there were Zerglings coming from Hero, he should have known that's basically the only way that Hero can recover, is to overpower you at the ramp. And the easiest way to not be overpowered at the ramp is to go back and hold the ramp. It is harder to filter Zerglings up onto that high ground and get them to hit the ideal targets, but instead he traded a little bit out, and that's when Hero's Ling Flood, came in, and he just lost too many drones. From there, it's an almost impossible game.
Yeah, it's a tough one. And, we'll see if Killer is able to maybe come up from that loser match. But next, we have Mind versus Stork. Don't go anywhere.
canvas. Lest you get beat up, bullied and dumped on. We gon' leave you beat up, bullied and dumped on. Excellently, it was pressing to me. Descended from the parents, I inherited 3 passports. I can flex a triple residency. Probably why I'm passing boundaries so effortlessly. If a rapper wanna step, they step with hesitancy. Cause I'm breaking with ease. Flow epidemic on these beats that I finessed in the beam. Ain't got a reservoir of seconds I can spin in between. Think I got a ton of patience, homie, testing to see. I undertook a mission with impossible odds. I can't cruise with no time, uncles. I'm obviously not easily boxed. That's why they be asking what do I rock. It's Tino Ranga, Tita Tonga, and abolish the cops. Oh yeah, unapologetic, promoting it, don't fear. Never let the team, they're in the better storm here. It's real, we don't do videos that are die here. But we nice right here, cause we only rock with Mavericks. If you a clone, then step out the canvas. Lest you get beat up, bullied and dumped on. We gon' leave you beat up, bullied and dumped on. We said we.
불 좀 켜줄래? 내 의자 좀 보게. 오늘 내 기분? 각도로 말할게. 이 바퀴 내 무게가 다 담아질까? 하루만 네 의자에 메시가 되고 싶어. 알고 싶어 너의 커스텀 값. 만들어봐 네 의자에 꿀 잡혀.
떠나버려 I wanna get away from this Trying to find myself in this difficult world 찾으려 해봤자 전부 소용없음 I gotta be motivated, gotta be loved 내일의 주변 사람들이 말하지 But I need my space, my life and a minute now I really think it's my time, I've been waiting patiently 다시 내 지친 모습 거울에 보면 얼마나 더 클 수 있을까 끝이 보이지 않아 미라지 보는 곳에 향해 I really can't tell where I'm headed I'm lost Left the final note if I'm on the high road Searching for oasis, not escape Searching for haters on me Do you feel the same? Here's my echolocation So I'm checking Searching for oasis Searching for oasis, my escape I wanna get away from this stress. Yeah, wanna get away. I wanna get away, yeah. Killing me with questions, sorry I can't answer any of them. 부재중 전화도 받지 못해 cause I'm dealing with a little bit of worry. Some panic and overthinking 내 안에 시끄러운 잡은 소리밖에 안 들려. 재미난 걸린 나 흐릿해 현실과는 미래. Gotta make do with what I got. The question still standing, will I make it through? Wanna know the truth, 내가 이렇게 힘들어. 내 지친 모습 거울에 보면
Hey everybody, the ASL continues on here. We had a ZVZ that was won and then lost. Hero did manage to get the Ling Flood off, and so here we are with him moving on into that winner's match. Up next, we have a TVP. This is Mine versus Stork.
Yeah, I think that this is one of the more exciting matches that we're going to have here today. I feel like both these guys, this might be their best matchup, if that makes sense. Like, I don't say that lightly highly about Mind because I think he is really smart and good at all the matchups. But I think, you know, that season where he got second place to JYJ, I really did feel like he showed so much skill in TVP. He was playing it a little bit differently from everyone else. It wasn't just like hitting upgrade timings. In fact, sometimes it looked like anti-timings, but he always found his windows.
Yeah, Stork in this matchup, we've kind of talked about this, and we've joked about this a lot off camera, Tastosis, but he's gone for carriers a lot versus Terran. I think he's gone for carriers more than anybody else we've seen.
Yeah.
And all the different flavors of carrier rushes. The very safe, like 3-base carrier tech, where you're just trying to do control play, move into that, all the way to like 2-base carriers off of nothing. I don't know why he's doing that. I don't know if it's because he feels like carriers are more manageable for him to win games with and control the units like that versus doing the kind of hyper-modern speed shuttle reaver, high Templar plays that we're seeing a lot of the other players do, a la Snow. So I'm curious what kind of game we're going to be having here from Stork. I'm really interested in what build he's going to do because at this point in time, he's gone for this style of play so much, I feel like it's going to hurt him if he does it again.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with you on that, especially considering we're playing Radeon. Radeon is a really wide open map in the center. So, like, here's the thing. If you get a lot of carriers, every carrier is a carrier map. But realistically, this isn't a map where you think, like, oh, damn, I don't know how to deal with carriers there, right? Like, it's so wide open. It's like, yeah, you make a million Goliaths, and that's how you deal with them. Because there's not like a ton of terrain for them to fly away over. So I do think that Stork is going to have to reel that type of strategy back in. If he wants to take down Mind, he is going to have to utilize probably, you know, I mean, I could see him maybe trying Arbiter play, but at the very top level doesn't seem quite as strong. So yeah, I think Shuttle's going to be important. His macro going to be very important here as well.
Yeah. Mind, definitely the favorite, it hurts to say, for a player that is as legendary as Stork. He really is in that pantheon of StarCraft gods. Really at like, you know, like we talk about kind of the golden era of StarCraft, just right before StarCraft 2 came out. Although when we say that, I want to be very clear. We're very optimistic about the future of StarCraft here. It could not be in a better state, but that was a special time where those guys were dominating. It's really where the game strategically had become really impressive and really advanced. And yeah, it's too bad he hasn't been able to perform better and kind of reach the heights of even what Bisu and Jaedong have done here. But every ASL is an opportunity to do that again. We've already seen Mind really come back. He's another player from that old era who's playing very well. Let's see what happens when we go into game number 2 of our evening here with these two players. And the winner, by the way, facing off against Hero. Okay, we've got Mind here in the top left, and sharing this side of the map in the bottom is Stork.
Yeah, and you talked a bit about like the legendary qualities of Stork and, you know, how it's kind of sad when he's not a favorite, but I do want to point out that there was once upon a time, there was a big question about who the next top Terran in the world was going to be, and it was between Flash and Mind. So Mind actually kind of was a bit legendary himself. He's actually, people wonder, they're like, oh, you know, there's this stupid meme where it's like, there's no Protoss Bonjois. Bisu actually would have been a Bonjois if not for Mind. Mind is the one that eliminated him from that MSL, where he was like right on the precipice of becoming, you know, the first Bonjois of Protoss. So, like, Mind is kind of a legendary figure himself. And, you know, I remember back then something happened where, I think in his personal life or something, I don't know the exact details, where he kind of, like, fell off in the pro scene for a bit. But it's great to have him back and performing at such a level, even making an ASL Finals at this point.
Yeah, it's cool with the history of StarCraft continuing on. By the way, guys, the game's a quarter of a century old, 25 years old. That we can still have tournaments. You just saw we still have fans showing up to cheer the players on. The viewership for this tournament is very, very good, especially in Korea. But we obviously have a big overseas audience that enjoys the game as well. And he's back. So we got two guys from the past here to compete yet again. And with Stork, I mean, I'm waiting for the season where he really steps it up. He's always looking good. He's always basically been able to take on anybody, but he doesn't seem to be equipped with all the tools to do a full tournament run.
Yeah, that has seemed to be the case, but I want to say I've actually seen and casted a fair amount of Stork's games recently. I feel like he's in better shape this season than he has been since like really early on in ASL. So I think he's kind of doubled down on his practice and everything. So I'm excited to see what he brings, and to see here it is the double pylon before gas. Do you ever use this type of build, Tasteless? This was popular like a while back, but I feel like it's not anymore.
Yeah, this was hot for a little bit. I tried it and completely failed. The game I played against Light, I think this is what I did.
Okay.
The one that you casted.
Yeah.
Yeah, where I faced him on ladder, and I was trying this like as a one-off, and I got murdered. I find this tough to navigate. It looks almost like a normal PvT build, but it feels very differently because of the rate at which you get Dragoons out.
Yeah.
It is not bad against a fast expanding Terran.
Yeah.
You can really put pressure on and control the game, but if they go for what mine does, which is like the most common opening, just, you know, getting your factory up and then putting one SCV on gas, I find the game a little bit tricky.
Absolutely. I honestly, at this point, I feel like double Zealot openers aren't very good right now. Like you said, if they're going for something like a gasless expansion, like the really fast command center, I love a build like this. I think you can catch them off guard, sometimes win the game or get a nice advantage. But yeah, in a situation like this where, you know, Mind is already making Marines, he's going for a quick Vulture, I just never see those two Zealots do anything.
Yeah, and it's hard to get value out of them later on. You can do stuff like get a shuttle out with the Reaver and load him in that way. There's ways to try to take stuff that didn't work for you early on and incorporate into things later on to try to get value. But yeah, you get your the Robo out a little bit later. Everything's a little bit slower, because you got those two Zealots out.
Well,
so we see the Dragoon coming out
game,
here and pushing.
I think this game he actually switched it up and only went one Zealot. I'm fairly certain you're supposed to go two Zealots with that, but if I'm not mistaken, I think he scouted it and saw that the Zealots weren't going to do anything maybe and got the quicker Nexus off of it.
I think that's correct. Actually, you're right. I don't see a second Zealot out here. So that's a smart move by him. Yeah, you definitely want to dial it back because the two Zealots don't do anything, but if they're expanding, it's really handy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So it's good to see Stork just kind of like fixing his build up a little bit. I assume mines are probably on the way right now. Looks like a Robo here for Stork. Very good probe saturation so far as well. That can always be kind of a nice thing with some of these slower builds, is oftentimes you don't have to really skip any probes or SCVs or whatever it may be. But yeah, it looks like we are going to have this one tank push. This is super trendy. I was actually talking about this build very recently with like Nyokin and Gypsy, where this is all the pros are doing this right now, where you go mines, one tank, 4 Marines, and you push, because when you get there, they only have like 4 gateway units.
Yeah, these can be pretty scary to deal with. Every unit is very delicate, though, for the Terran. He's got the mines laid, but I don't think he's going to commit into this. I think he's going to basically contain with the mines and then back it up, because there should be enough that you would be able to basically hide behind your buildings and fire some shots over and probably survive this. Does he get a starport behind this, or was it another factory?
Normally you go second factory, but I think you can go armory as well. But yeah, this isn't a build to like necessarily do damage with. It's more like you're checking what your opponent is doing. Like if they skip even one unit, you can do massive damage with it. So like they have to kind of produce
an honesty check.
Yeah, exactly. It's not meant for damage. You can see just mine backs up. He sees, oh, you have 4 gateway units. Okay, nothing's crazy. But if something was crazy, you start to roll through it with a build like this.
Right. It's a way to come out and, without really taking any risk, confirm that they are not cutting corners. And the truth is, a lot of pros cut corners early on.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of times when you're on ladder and you're playing against somebody way better than you, and it just feels like everything that you did was, you know, several steps behind a normal game, it's probably because they cut corners somewhere early on.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why it's important to have these moments where you basically come in and skill check them And sometimes even against good players, when you get good at doing stuff like this, great shot on the mine, by the way, you can get to the point where you get these early wins and do damage just because you know how to get in there and tap them and see what they're up to.
Yeah. Well, looking over at Mine's base, he did go for the Armory variant, so he's going to have that very, very quick +1 attack. And, you know, nowadays we see mostly with these quick armories, not a quick starport for 2-1, but rather a lot of Terrans are going up to 5-fact, maybe 6-fact, and just doing like 1-1 pushes.
Yeah. This probe, by the way, it is exposed a little bit. The Vultures are not going to get it. He'll come down here and take this Nexus right over here. And it seems like the Protoss is probably just going to be reaching over to the right side of the map to expand in this area. It's going to be 2 Zealots and a Reaver after the Observers are out. This also seems to be pretty popular still to this day, is basically delayed Reavers. I know a couple ASLs ago, and off the top of my head, I can't remember when roughly this change happened, but we had a period of time where people went really quick Reavers, and it prompted all the Terrans to go for Starport Wraith, and it basically made that obsolete. So the meta shifted back over to a much more conservative play where you still go for Shuttle Reaver and look for damage. You just do it after the third base has started.
Exactly, yeah. It's so fun to watch the changing of the metagame over time, because it's exactly as you said. It's funny, too, because if you listen to like translated or retranslated transcripts of what the pros are saying, they'd be like, no, delayed Reaver's terrible. You got to go fast Reaver. And now it's back to, okay, 2-gate Observer, third base Reaver, you know? And it's honestly, it's a very stable build. It's like nothing is really going to come out and kill you or anything, right? Like you have all sorts of options for possible harassment. You know, you have lots of units. You're not going to get rolled over by some sort of push from Terran. So it's a great way to open a game.
It also parlays pretty nicely into Carrier, if that's what we get here.
True.
I mean, it is Stork, but I could very easily see a Stargate appearing pretty soon over here in the main. Yeah, I remember, because this was right around when I moved to Korea, around 2008. Maybe I got here like just late 2007. I can't really remember exactly, but I remember watching games in Korea and being perplexed by seeing the delayed Reaver, because that was not something people were really doing as much yet. Where it's like, huh, so they get like 2 shuttles later on and fly in their main? Or they get a Reaver and you don't really see it do damage, but then when you see what it can do versus pushes and how it can control a game and force a Terran to make turrets, it's really good.
The evolution of Reaver has been like really important for this matchup. It's used to contain like this. It's hard to push through. And nowadays, like, you see these builds like what Stork is doing, and I think he's doing it here. If we see him add some gateways, I saw the Citadel. If you go for like 2 Reavers and then into mass gateway, you get like a really big army very, very quickly on 3 bases.
Okay, he's pushing out, and these Reavers are exposed here. He's actually going to slow walk him back. He's going... Oh, he loses one immediately.
Yeah, a little bit sloppy there, isn't it? A lot of Zealots are coming out, though, and as legs finish, that's going to become very strong. Is Mind too far out in the map? He's down 30 supply right now.
It does feel pretty scary. I think a lot of this is just going to depend on the unit interactions, like a few mines blowing up all the Zealots. Or, you know, possibly the shuttles coming in the perfect positions to land on top of the units. It's a pretty long minefield to try to tear down. The scan is going to get that observer killed, and so the mines can't be revealed. So this is really scary. He's going to drop over here. The drop is abysmal. He does come in with his Zealots.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
Dude, this was a bad engagement from Stork without any doubt. His shuttles were way too far ahead. Like, it absolutely got smashed. Mind has basically won the game at this point, I feel like, right? He's going to kill the third. He killed both the shuttles. There's no more Reavers. Stork has nothing. He has like 3 units on the map, and he's going to be down at 2 base.
You know, man, every Protoss who's going to get to greatness has to be able to stop the 2-base push. And I'll tell you, it's not easy to stop it. If you're not really prepped and ready to take it on, it can kill you. it does show that Protoss can be delicate at times. But, you know, losing the Reavers, that's the easiest way to lose control of the game. If those Reavers get shot down like we saw earlier, then the Terran has free range. The shuttles are out too late. And to top it all off, Mine actually shot that observer down that was there to detect the mines. So, I mean, it was a pretty tactically brilliant move here from him.
And he's doing a great job here as well, like just slowing goons from coming across the map, moving his siege tanks up, relaying minefields. Look at that, flanking the goons there, forcing them back in a direction that he wants. This is fantastic play from Mind. He really, he has such a, well, pardon the pun, but mind for the timings. You know, like he finds these opportunities. Yeah, my greatest moment in ASL. He finds these opportunities.
And I'm like, and pardon my pun, but our Protoss player will have to fly out of this game like a stork. See, I can do it too, Artosis.
Oh, Tastosis, you're such a killer, man. Now, you know, he's still kind of pushing. He's just trying to make it cost inefficient here for Stork. Honestly, he could pull back and just, like, chill on 3 bases and macro up, and I'm not sure how Stork would ever come back.
I don't know that you're supposed to be able to come back when you're down on bases versus Terran, especially if they pushed, got the damage in, and then got out with most of it. But the Reaver drop's going to come in here. He is going to use this to try to hit some of the other units. I think he could take the Goliath out and maybe get a little bit more damage here. Honestly, not bad. But there are some real problems here that I don't know what Stork can really do to ameliorate it. By the way, I guess we never got that carrier tech. He kind of just went old school, ground and pound Protoss, Reavers into lots of shuttles with Zealots and speed. And the problem is that can take fights in 2 base versus 3 base, but Mine being the smart player just pulled back, went on 3 bases. And if you don't have Templars with Storm or an Arbiter with Stasis or carriers coming out, it's kind of hard to make it work with just the Reavers. It can be done, but it's really hard, and I think Mine knows how to basically avoid that.
If you're going to play like just Reaver Gateway, like you have to have a lot more units than your opponent. And Mine just found that timing where he didn't quite have that yet. Oh man, even Probe's getting hit at this point. The Probe's kind of going in a funny direction around the map, trying to avoid those siege tanks so they can get to Stork's new third in the bottom right. But really looking at the supply, right? This is a big thing for this matchup. If Terran gets ahead of Protoss on supply, that becomes incredibly difficult for Protoss unless they have like a giant carrier army with some, you know, high Templars, that type of thing. Otherwise, it's like, you look at this, none of this does enough like AoE damage to really threaten Terran.
I think we're going to see this attack fail, and that's going to be it. I mean, he's just going to try to come through here and bust. The tank spread is really good. There's a lot of Zealots here. He is making the Terran do some work, but I think that clump of Vultures in the back is just enough to pick off every Zealot. And once it's just Dragoons like that, there you know. There you go. You know it's over. Mind wins this game. We're going to have Mind versus Hero coming up next.
That's going to be a great matchup. And, of course, down in the losers match, we'll have Stork versus Killer. And, you know, I think that that'll be a good match as well. Stork definitely looks to be improved in playing well. This wasn't, like, the greatest game. He just kind of failed slowing down that push with his Reavers, which is really what they're there for. And Mind picks up a victory pretty quickly.
Yeah, Mind's looking really good. It's exciting to see him back in form like this. Look, man, Stork was a disappointment here. This was a bummer. He went for very basic play, which is fine, but he wasn't even able to make that work. Like, look at this. The Reavers are kind of out of position. They get almost flanked unintentionally here. He drops one of these. You need to be ready to delay this when it's outbound, not when it's about to be hitting your base. All the damage kills one Reaver, and then the other Reaver is at like 10% HP. It's in the red. And from there, it's easy for the Terran to cut off this position, isolate the third base, and destroy it. And that's where the game ended.
He had no vision. He had no vision of anything on the map. Like, the push came up, and it was right next to where his Reavers were. And that's the first time he knew about it. So all of his units were just in the wrong spot. This scan, like you pointed out, was fantastic. You get rid of those mines, and what can he do? He has to run through the minefield. And, of course, these shuttles came in, like, too quickly, I would say. right? Like you should have tried to attack at the same time, but instead the shuttles went in and died, then the army went in and died. That's not a push that you have to lose to.
I think it's a push that he could have fought off part of, and then we would see what happened. But yeah, he just screwed up being ready for the push. Again, Stork, you know, it's a bummer. He is not the same Protoss as before. Obviously, his story doesn't end here tonight just yet. He'll be in the losers match. Up next, guys, we've got Mind versus Hero. You don't want to miss it. We will be right back.
불 좀 켜줄래? 내 의자 좀 보게. 오늘 내 기분? 각도로 말할게. 이 바퀴 내 무게가 다 담아질까? 하루만 네 의자에 메시가 되고 싶어. 알고 싶어 너의 커스텀 값. 만들어봐 네 의자의 꿀자세.
Sorry, I'm a dipshit.
Everyone, it's time for the winners match. This is going to be a TVZ. This should by far be the best game in the group, by the way. Mind versus Hero.
Well, it is the winner's match, so I guess that is supposed to be the the best always. Yeah, Mind has very good, very solid kind of standard Terran versus Zerg. And then, of course, Hero, I think at times is the #1 Zerg versus Terran player in the world. I kind of give Sulky an edge over Hero mostly everywhere. But, like, I would, in my opinion, probably put him second, you know? Like, those, for me, are the strong macro Zergs for this matchup.
Now, we're going to be going onto the map Blitz Y. And this is a fun map. It is in the ladder pool. So, you know, what you see here, you will experience online now that this game is out in the ecosystem. I don't know what impacts this map has in TVZ, but you can see it's a map where you're both starting on the right. There's an array of bases all on the high ground towards the middle, but as you get towards the corners there's a couple of low ground bases. It does feel like there's maybe a couple places Zerg could try to expand to Tastosis. Is that correct?
It looks like it. I don't know. I feel like every Zerg either vetoes or rushes on this map. But I guess we'll get into it and see what Hero's ideas are. Here we go for the winners match.
Here we go. Okay, we've got Hero in the top right and Mind in the bottom right. The winner of this is going to be the...
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say the winner of this match does advance over here into the round of 16, the first survivor here at Group B. Before we get into the game, guys, we just want to say to everybody who's been supporting us on the Patreon, we really, really appreciate it. We would not be able to do this type of content without you guys. AfreecaTV a long time ago axed the English broadcast, but you guys on Patreon came back and saved us, and here we are. We're able to keep doing this. So please go to that Patreon, keep it supported strong. We love Tastosis. It's perfectly timed for this read from Boston. Ask them about the Patreon.
Totally.
But yeah, guys, we really appreciate it. We couldn't do it without you.
All right. Yeah, thank you very much, everybody. And, you know, we hope to really do it forever. And that's not even a joke. Like, you know, at this point, I'm old enough. I'm like 40. I have 4 kids, right? Like, I've already like created my entire future. Like, I have a house in Canada and stuff. But I'm like, well, the one thing I'm completely certain of is that I will play and watch StarCraft 1 forever. I'm not really certain of anything else, you know. Like that's that's about it. Where you know I've figured this out. I'm not changing any more tasteless. You know I haven't changed in years, and Brood War is always going to be a part of me.
Oh, 100%, man. And you know these non-Koreans we see in the audience. I mean, they have learned about this show from the ASL. We've got a lot of older people that come in that are around our age that grew up on StarCraft, wanted to finally tick that off their bucket list to see a live StarCraft match in person, which you guys are, of course, welcome to do, going down to the Jomshill studio. But we also got a lot of young people coming in that are learning about the game. And there's a point in time where a game gets so old, it's almost not scary to try to pick it up and learn it and follow it. Like we've seen this with Tetris and its continuing popularity, where it's like, oh, we have all these young people coming in and learning it. Same thing with StarCraft. I would talk more about StarCraft in general, but we have a crazy build coming here from Mind. Double racks.
He's walling as if he wants to expand. One thing about Blitz Y is the Overlord has to cross a little chasm to see if you have an expansion. And if you just make Marines, you can deny that. So that's going to be the main part of what Mind is doing here. He needs to make sure that this Overlord does not make it close enough to see whether or not there is a command center, because that second Rax in the center is absolutely crucial. What he'll probably do is start to walk out with 4 or 5 Marines, and like Hero will think that he can make a sunken, but then Marines will hit from the other barracks and not allow that to occur. So it's very risky, because if Hero stops this, you're dead. This is all in.
Yeah, no, there's no plan B from here. But I like it. And it always feels like when you have a new map like this is where these ideas come into play. Probably won't stay here for very long. If you're a Zerg, watch out for this on the ladder. This is going to be what everybody's doing. Here comes those Marines now. And so this is a tough one. We don't normally see Marine rushes or bunker rushes really work anymore in the modern era. But let's find out what can be pulled off here. I think that bunker is barely in range of the hatchery, by the way. If it was 1 hex further down, it wouldn't work. The sunk has not started. It just now begins. The drones are being pulled.
Dude,
He's done some pretty good targeting.
Yeah.
This I think might actually end, man.
It's pretty bad right now for poor Hero. Yeah, his sunken not going to make it. He's going to lose just about every single drone. The hatchery definitely going to fall. And like, I wonder if Hero's even going to try to do something from here. Yeah, he's not. GG is called, and that was a fast one. It totally worked as Mind had intended. He just had a bit more than what Hero expected. Hero didn't actually have the scouting intel, and you're definitely right. If you're playing Blitz Y as Zerg today, guys, watch out for that. That is going to be everywhere.
Go 9-pool speed Zergling. Go blind counter it, all right? Get your points while you can. I guess I was wrong when I said this would so obviously be the best match of the day. Hey, great strategy from Mind. A lot of times on these new maps, technical proxies are the way to go. It did look like a fast expanding Terran, and Hero was clearly geared up for a long game when in fact Mind wanted to end it right away.
Well, that was anticlimactic, to say the least. I was really looking forward to just seeing like something, anything in this matchup, because as I mentioned, like I get a lot of Terran versus Protoss here. No Terran versus Terran here, and every single game against Zerg is a Zergling rush. So I'm just like, I don't know. I only know TVP on this map, but here you can see Mind, he comes out just perfectly. I guess he knew that second Overlord would be coming, so he pushes the rush forward, moves out with 4 Marines, and it's already kind of too late here for Hero.
Yeah, he's already made too many drones. He put these sunken colony far back, but it didn't really matter. You can see another drone just hatches over there. You need more lings than this. You need about 8 maybe to try to take this on and buy time. The sunken colony it loses 100 points when of health when it completes. So even if it looks like it probably is going to be able to survive this, as it finishes, watch, you're going to see it suddenly. Well, I guess you killed it even before that, anyways. But yeah, basically you can target that down and get that killed. And hey, man, a win is a win. Mind moves on. I feel like we barely got to see him in this group, but he is already out, leaving us with 2 Zergs and a Protoss left over.
Some very decisive games here tonight, that's for sure. We've had like 3 games where an attack just kind of ends it. All right, interview.
You're watching Group B of the round of 24 of the AfreecaTV StarCraft League Season 17 as we have our first player advancing through today. Let's have a word with Mind. Congratulations. Thank you. As befits your moniker, like a venomous snake, you finished things quickly today. This is your 3rd time in a row, making it into the round of 16. How do you feel? I genuinely thought today wouldn't be an easy group, so I came into it rather worried, but things ended up going better than I expected, and thank God for that. You managed to keep the promise you gave your fans on stream, where you said you would take 1st place with 2 wins. Your fans must be very pleased to see this. Well, as I said, it was more of an offhanded comment, but it's just as well I managed to keep my word. It's good. It's good. Now, people seem to be very impressed with how well you prepared, how well prepared you went into the games today. In the match against Stork, you hit an effective 5 factory timing. First scanning the observer over your base, and then very quickly moving out into the open. Well, I tried various things during my prep work and settled on some of the things that worked best. I ended up doing things on the fly. I think I managed to deny Stork's vision really well, and then ended up getting his reavers once I moved out. So that went well. Now, in the fight itself, you seem to suffer hardly any losses to your tank count. Did you practice your positioning on Radeon separately? Because you had a really impressive spread of tanks. Not really. It just happened when it happened. But it was a good-looking tank line, I agree. The forward barracks you went for in the TVZ against Hero seemed very decisive. Was that a build you had prepared specifically? Well, it's just as well I had prepared it. It was something that came to me when analyzing Blitz in TVZ, in the context of TVZ. Out of all the games, this one was the most likely one for me to drop. So I had to think a lot about the build. I was worried when Blitz actually came up, and I thought, well, I really have to win this one. So thankfully the build worked very well. Well, it seems the matchups all went exactly the way we prepared, down to the maps. Well, in all honesty, I wasn't playing very comfortably. My hands didn't want to cooperate very well either, but I seem to have followed the course of the games rather well instead. Now, you end up playing well when luck is on your side, so this season I should find some success. Not only is your record good, you have favorable wins and luck on your side. Could this be another season where you go all the way to the grand final? Well, that's still far off. It must be giving you something to go off of ahead of the group selection for the round of 16. Let's hear your goals for this season. I'm not playing that well recently. My goal naturally is to win. I've already been to the finals once, but if I want to be the champion, I have to do better. I need to adapt to the studio environment a bit better too. In any case, I will keep doing my best. I would also like to thank my practice partners, Motive, YSC, Saxry, and Action. Again, congratulations on your results today. We'll meet again at the group selection ceremony for the round of 16. Congratulations. Thank you. And that gives us our first place finisher of Group B of the round of 24. We'll take a short break, and we'll be back with the losers match between Killer and Stork.
we are back and ready to now go into this losers match. We've had a lot of short games, Tastosis. Please, gods of esports, bless us with a long one. I would like to have a macro game, a dramatic, drawn-out game, where some of these are so fast.
Well, I guess it is best of one, and it's pretty easy to practice really decisive plays, right? Like, it makes sense in a way. Like, you don't have to grind out a big series, so we'll see if that's still going to be the case. Here, it is going to be Blitz Y once again. Have you seen a lot of PvZ on this map? Because I don't think I've seen one.
I've seen mine.
Okay.
They're not pretty, but I don't think it represents. I don't think that represents what the top level PvZ is going to be. You know, proxy 2-gate is not popular, or at least it's not popular yet. It used to be that was a thing that some Protosses would do. Seems like that's gone away. So I don't necessarily think this map is going to look that different early game. I am open to surprises. We'll see what exactly both these guys want to do. Usually at a map like this, it's the late game that is much more impacted by the map itself. Anyways, we're ready to get into this game. The loser of this best of one is out of the ASL Season 17. All right, we've got Stork at the top right, Killer in the bottom right. Let's watch these openings carefully, see if there's any new ideas we could see on a map that is very unusually structured. The reason why, by the way, I was bringing up the proxy gate stuff is maps where you're both holding one side are easier to proxy gate and not be spotted.
Oh.
Because you just go across
point.
the map into the corner, because the Overlord never goes over there.
Yes, that makes sense.
So that's why I thought, you know, maybe there's a chance for it, but it just seems like Zergs have finally gotten so good at dealing with, you know, holding that and counterattacking and playing a chaotic game and getting the Ling speed up and ready and basically not letting the Protoss take advantage of the strength of the Zealots and instead leveraging the speed of the Zerglings.
Sure. I want to talk about the general shape of the map because Blitz Y,
Sure.
I feel like we haven't done that too much yet, but one of the main things is that raised platform in the center. It's got like a very thin choke that runs from one side to the other. So you can get across the map pretty quickly with units, but they don't they can be choked off very, very easily there. You can defend that area super, super easily. And I feel like that makes this map better in a lot of ways than a lot of other two-player maps. Like, it feels more playable, for instance. Now, it's still a new map, so maybe I'll change my mind like I have on Retro and whatnot. But it feels like if you look at all the newer maps, that this is the best map for Terran versus Protoss out of two-player maps, right? Normally, two-player maps get dominated by Protoss, but this one doesn't feel bad. And I wonder if it might be similar for Protoss here against Zerg, because if you take that high ground gas base, that is so easy to defend. You got to defend a tiny choke and a ramp. And it's like, okay, well, if you can get 3 gas pretty easily, maybe this map will be really decent for Protoss versus Zerg.
It's an interesting point. A lot of maps where it's hard to get... I mean, generally speaking, it's hard to get a third base on most maps. Harder, obviously, than a natural. But when you're given a base that's pretty much free, without a whole lot of stipulation on top of it, it can be a game that's pretty doable. But let's let this game pan out a little bit more. I do feel like, for myself personally, I don't have a handle on the late game on this map too much yet. You know, one thing with Brood War in a lot of the matchups, and PvZ is no exception, is that you can really turtle on a base in late game. You know, Reavers, Cannons, Templars, or Defilers, Lurkers, Sunken Colonies, Spores. Like, it's really abusive. By the way, nice block here with the Pylon. Now, this is not a Zealot rush. This was actually Forge first. So he's just going to throw the Pylon down there to delay the third hatchery a little bit and basically force these Lings to stay back. He doesn't need to get another cannon right away. I think even if he hadn't done that, he wouldn't need to. There's not enough Zerglings on the map. But putting that pylon in that bottom left corner lets this probe now get into the main here and scout and confirm, okay, is this an all-in? Are you making a Hydra Den? Is Zergling speed? Is it only Zerglings hatching? No. This looks like a normal game.
Even making the layer there at the natural, just trying to hide exactly the timings of everything here from Stork. He doesn't know for sure, like, is there Zergling speed? Is there a layer at the natural? But his probe is still live, so he's going to be able to figure these things out. And since it's opening up as a pretty normal game, what I want to see from Stork here is just some solid macro play. Like, I really, the more I look at it, the more I think about it, I feel like if you take that third base, this map will become pretty doable. There's not like that many bases on the map. Some of them are really hard to take. Like that base, obviously the ones that are on kind of like a low ground island area are like really weird. And then you have the one that's over at 9 o'clock where, that's right in the middle. And it doesn't have any great defensive areas to it. So, yeah, it feels like a map that we could see Stork play like a really nice later game in.
So we have the layer coming along. The wall-in is all plugged up. We've got the Stargate coming out here. I assume we're going to have a Citadel in a little bit. I mean, Stork's playing a pretty normal game. There are a couple different branches in the build order that could be played from here. It seems like this is a game where you definitely want to try to play into punishing the Zerg as he takes the fourth base. And it also seems like it could be a map where the Zerg may be interested in trying to do some kind of contain to preempt that easy third base that we were talking about, Tastosis. That Protoss seems to be able to, if you get cannons and Templars up there, they're just not going to be able to take it back from you.
For sure, for sure. So third base up in mining now. Corsair is going to be out shortly. Citadel coming up here for Stork. Looks like he is getting that air attack as well. And, there are some lings across the map right now for Killer. I don't think there's really anything much to do with those. They're just going to watch for anything trying to come out to scout or anything like that. Maybe threaten that, oh, this could be a rush. But the Corsair is going to figure out what Killer's doing in a moment.
So that Corsair is going to come across the map here. Did we get air weapons, by the way? I didn't actually see.
Yes, he is getting air weapons.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So with the air weapons here, this is going to basically be charge lot into +1 Corsairs. The air weapons and the ground weapons are going to finish at about the same time. This is kind of good versus whatever you're against. It's certainly good if you find out you're against mutas, but you can be against a player who's playing Hydra or Scourge defending and make it work. It's kind of a catch-all. You do have to change how you're operating depending on the way the game goes.
Mm-hmm.
But this is pretty good. He should be able to kill this Overlord barely and get out. You can usually get one Overlord kill right before the Scourge get it. And he does that. He's going to be headed back home. He won't move back out with those Corsairs until he has about 5. Because 5 with +1 can 2-shot a Scourge.
You mentioned, Tasteless, that this is going to be like Speed Zealots along with the +1 Corsairs. Do you look at this map and say, wow, that third is so far away, I've just got to go Speed Zealots here and try to harass it some?
Well, you have the option to try to come out and attack. I think that this is a pretty mild version of it. It's just 2 gate, so he's probably going to have speed lots that are strong and then get Templars behind it. Like, when you get speed lots, you have the opportunity to go for, like, a lot of aggression, but I think you're right. There really isn't, like, a real sweet spot, a place you'd want to try to hit in. Both the natural and the third base seem pretty safe, but you could tack up. We've got the 2 more gateways coming down here. It's kind of like you're just developing. We see Rain do this build a lot, by the way, where he's kind of ticking all the boxes for strong Protoss stuff into the mid-game. We see those cannons, additional ones coming down over at his natural so he doesn't get counterattacked. And he may just take a third. What? Hold on, he's going to come in here instead.
Yeah, he does have that +1, so he is able to shred these lings quickly. Killer did a really weird move. He has like Hydras and lings towards the top left right now, but it looks like he didn't leave enough units to deal with these Zealots that are attacking into his natural. Look at the amount of damage Stork is getting.
Oh, he wants to actually just break the entrance down. He wants to Lurker Ling Bust. I have never really seen it quite like this. Like a delayed Lurker Ling Bust.
Me either.
You could just take these Lings now, or these Zealots, excuse me, and just run behind the minerals. I guess you don't even have to do that with +1. But this is going to be a problem when the Lurkers come up. I mean, 2 cannons cannot hold this if he sends the Lings in with this.
Oh, man. Yeah, Killer might have an opportunity here, and he's going to be able to kill off these cannons super, super quickly. Unfortunate, no units were there to help, and in fact, this High Templar should be picked off. A lot of Corsairs floating there helplessly. There's no way for the Lurkers to actually fit right now, so it is buying him a bit of time, but a ton of damage being dealt. We actually have the same on the other side of the map. The Zealots are still alive in the main base.
And I think he's sending more Zealots across the map. This is a really sloppy mid-game from both sides. They both got back here. The Robo's done, but I don't know that he can get an Observer out in time. He has the Observatory coming. He could use a Zealot, and he can attack the Zealot with the Archon and try to use the splash damage to damage that. The main falls apart. I think there's a world in which both players survive this, and it becomes a real weird game.
Tasteless, if they both lose here, does Hero just advance?
That's how it works. It's like when you both get the double KO in the arcade in Street Fighter when you were 1-1. It's like now they both have to put a quarter in, or they get knocked into the next ASL. So good play by Stork. He gets the Observer out, gets the kills on the Lurkers, and as the dust settles, I mean, where exactly are we? I feel like there's okay. So the layer's still there for the Zerg. He made the layer at the natural. I wasn't sure if that was the main that was killed. He's going to get the cannons up. He does have all the Templar tech that he needs. He does have observers out, so it's pretty hard to get the Protoss in any position where they just can't handle what you throw at them. And I think this is literally 4 functional hatches right now, right? Yeah. And then the 5th one that he's making in the main. A lot of drones were killed. Obviously, the main is more easy to recover than your natural or your third base because it's behind all this defense, and we're probably not going to have a successful Zealot run by anymore in this game. But this is a scrappy one.
Both of them going for pretty aggressive plays there. It seems like, Killer is the one that brought kind of a new idea with that late 3 Lurker attack. Didn't end up working enough, though, based on how much damage he took. Now, look at this. Diving on top of those Overlords, the DT's getting in here and will end up killing off, like, just about everything. Looks like he will lose all the DTs, but he's getting a ton of Overlords. Look at this big supply block.
Yeah, he's going to come in here with this Observer and the rest of the army. He's going to come cut through and do so much damage. I mean, this is Killer really getting beat down. Stork is basically fully recovered. But this push in here is doing quite a bit. He got a lot of drone kills. We see that 6th hatchery. By the way, the 6th hatch over there signals we're not going to see the Zerg try to take a 4th. I think that was probably already obvious to everybody with how beaten up the Zerg was. But this means the Zerg is more it's like a battle Zerg setup. He wants to try to take a fight. Obviously, Stork wants to take a 3rd here. I think these Hydras can come up here and deny this. Again, it's a very narrow passageway up here to move units through, but if he doesn't get Cannons and Templars up there early enough, I think there's a chance Killer can try to play a denial game where he just gets lots of Lurkers, maybe Scourge or Mutas, and tries to just deny the Protoss from ever getting on top of this platform and controlling it.
Well, he is sending some Zealots up, but we have a drop coming in from Stork to the natural. I think it's got a High Templar in it. Yeah, a couple of them, in fact. And, well, the second storm doesn't do too much, but it does kill several of the drones there and sending a Zealot into the main base. So more economic damage to poor Killer. He's been about half of the supply of Stork for quite some time.
Because he was able to kill off that that Spire earlier with the Zealots, I don't think the Spire was ever remade. So in moments like that, you can roam freely with the shuttle and the Templars and just try to look for setups and do damage. I think the Storm Drop could have gone a little bit better, but what he did was definitely something. And I think this is going to be a pretty difficult spot now for Killer to play from because Stork is going to get that 3rd up here. I don't see any world where there's a way to deny this. He's got 4 Templars. He doesn't have cannons yet, but he has everything else he needs at that 3rd base. He's continuing to make Corsairs, by the way, probably because he knows one of the only ways Zerg could win is with a weird drop. And you might as well just go for the hard counter to the air units. Got a big pull over here. And again, more drone kills. I would not be surprised, by the way, if all these eggs are going to hatch mutas in a second here, assuming that Spire finished.
Well, 13 drones killed off there. A very dire position here for Killer. What do you think is the best play? Is it a muta all-in, as you're kind of alluding to? Would drops make sense? Is there any world in which he can maybe take his own fourth and turtle up and get to Hive? I really don't know what Killer's supposed to do, because it feels like Stork is really in control of the game.
With the mutas that he has, he can try to snipe the Templars, but that's what the Corsairs are for. Doesn't mean the Protoss can't mess up and not cover the Templars with the Corsairs, but he's basically trying to pocket these Mutalisks so that as the Protoss comes out here, he snipes the Templars and then tries to strong-arm them with just the Hydras alone. But even then, man, I mean, Stork may just have enough. In fact, Stork is looking like he wants to try to push in here, maybe hit this hatchery or Hydra den and just build up pressure that way. And I don't see any lurkers, by the way.
No lurkers whatsoever. He does go after those High Templars, and will end up losing every single Mutalisk, but does get the High Templars. Not enough left over for Killer. Stork going to go on to that final match. A tough day here for poor Killer. He had a couple of very strong attacks in both of his matches, but the counterattacks were just too strong.
You could see the lack of cannons really caused a problem for Stork, but in his defense, he probably thought there were Hydras that were going to run up into the main and chase after him and kill him. They just never came, but a very, very bizarre early mid-game where they both ended up taking a ton of damage. It was ultimately Stork that came out on top, and that means Killer's out, and coming up next is going to be Stork versus Hero.
Well, I'm hoping for an equally fun game there in Stork versus Hero, because this at least was like, it was contested for a bit, right? We saw some cool moves, and I'm just happy, I got to be honest, that it's not going to be a ZVZ in that last match.
Well, it'll be cool to see how Stork can fare against Hero. I do think this is going to be a very tough one for him. This should really make you appreciate how good +1 attack Zealots are. I mean, they just plowed through that position. Getting the Spire turned out to be hugely impactful later on because it allowed for those drops. It also allowed for the Corsairs to bully the Overlords. But never underestimate a couple Lings and Lurkers. I mean, we see Terrans die to this all the time. Protoss, it's really no different. You have to rely on your cannons so much to ensure that you can get all the rest of the tech you need. The Corsairs, all the upgrades, the Observers especially, Templar Archives obviously. That sometimes these plays where you get in there and do a little bit more damage and then destroy the detectors, you can lose the natural. Interestingly, Stork had a position set up where he could not move the Lurkers through. They were too fat to fit through the narrow areas there between the pylon, the gate, and the forge. And that allowed the Robo to be a little bit protected. And so ultimately the Observer did come out, and that's when Stork recovered.
If there was a way in for those Lurkers, I actually think Stork would have lost that game. If he loses that natural Nexus and the Robo, I don't think there's really any coming back from that. You know, 2 base against 1 is just brutal. So, well played for sure. We're going to go to a quick commercial break. And when we come back, the final match of the evening, Hero versus Stork.
It's all in repetition, ain't a secret. All facts, all black dress code. Pay me my respect, collecting every debt. Oh, the hardest. I bring the pain. Not what she used to.
불 좀 켜줄래? 내 의자 좀 보게. 오늘 내 기분? 각도로 말할게. 이 바퀴 내 무게가 다 담아질까? 하루만 네 의자에 메시가 되고 싶어. 알고 싶어 너의 커스텀 값. 만들어봐 네 의자에 꿀 잡혀.
I feel like the real MVP. I feel like I should give a speech. I feel like I deserve a ring. I feel like the highlight if you know what I mean. I can wear my pride on my sleeve. I can do things you only dream. I feel like the greatest thing. I'm sorry if this comes off cocky. I'm just feeling myself. I'm just feeling myself. Don't know if you could tell.
We are back, and it's time for the final best of one of the evening, Artosis. It's all gone too quickly.
It really has. It feels like a quick night. A lot of rushes, a lot of quick, decisive attacks. As I guess, I feel like every season this kind of happens in the round of 24, and every season we are like, we act surprised about it. You know what I mean? Because we have like
We just can't learn.
Yeah. We have memories of the later parts of the tournament where it's like best of threes, best of fives, and then people start busting out more macro. But yeah, man, best of one, you gotta be decisive there. And now we're going into
yeah, you really do. All right, go ahead.
Yeah, we're going into Hero vs. Stork on Retro. So a 4-player map. I am nervous here for Stork. I think Hero's a bit stronger, but also Retro specifically is very good defensively for Zerg. I think it's hard to break, and you have to be ready to play a big macro game here, I think, as Protoss.
You know, both these guys are great, but Stork beating Hero would be a huge upset. Hero is a Protoss destroyer, and, well, we're ready to go. So let's get into this game and see what Stork's got. The winner of this is going to be the second player to survive Group B in the round of 24 and move on to the round of 16. Players hugging the right side of the map, Stork in the top and Hero in the bottom. Talking about the map Retro here, this is a map where the more I play on it, the more I'm surprised at how hard it is to navigate.
Yeah.
The pathing does want to pull your army or your scout or whatever you're trying to move in through the pathways on the side as opposed to the pathways in the middle. It's a big fundamental difference from the map fighting spirit. And a lot of times you don't want to be moving into the narrow pathways on the side. So big army pushes and moving around can be difficult. The middle is smaller than it looks. Although in PvZ, I would say it still feels bigger than most maps.
I get your feelings basically exactly. It's funny how we can kind of align like this. Like when it came out, it was like really exciting and cool. And now that we've both played a lot, we're like, oh man, this is like a difficult map to play. It really is.
Yeah.
I would say that the big takeaway for this map is how wonky it can be to go to your third base defensively. Like if your third base is under attack and you're like, because the thing is, you want to move towards the center. You never go through your third to the center because going up and down tiny ramps it's not good army movement, right? So, like, if you're, like, kind of in the center, like, in front of, like, that big choked area, and someone attacks your third, you're like, oh, man. Like, do I walk all the way back and around it so far? Do I try to come in behind the army? It's really weird, and it's hard to defend, and it's hard to get additional bases because everything's so far away. It's a tricky map, man.
It really is. The Overlord scouted the forward gateway, so Stork's going to go with a very common opener here. Going to try to go head-to-head here against Hero. This position does allow Lings to run around your Zealots. You can go right by them and they won't see you. It makes the scouting probe doubly important because there's no obvious path you both have to take to get to each other's bases. And in case you're wondering, well, what if the Zealot went the long way around the middle? Well, then the Lings could go onto the other side. And whenever you're doing Zealot pressure, you got to be very ready for counterattacks. You got to be ready for surrounds. You have to be really on top of counting the Lings hatching, which only 2 have come out with so far.
The probe is going to be pushed away for now. Hero bringing his other couple lings down the ramp as well. Third base going to be taken. The probe is going up to kind of check on that, but won't be in time to delay it like we saw in the previous game. But pretty standard openers on both sides. Going to have a nice quick Nexus there and just block his ramp as these lings come up. About as standard as you can get in the modern day.
And good players really have this down to a science with the one Zealot and the one probe in the back to defend the ramp because you don't want to let them in there. And then you have the one Zealot and hopefully the third Zealot that comes out to help defend this spot. If you do it just right, you don't lose anything. But if you slip up at all, you can drop the pylon or the gateway. And so Stork's playing a pretty world-class game. And once he has enough to fill in the entrance, he'll move away from the ramp and then plug in the actual wall in. While you're doing this, you're trying to figure out how many lings are they actually making, because as we learned from Mini in past ASLs, it's really important to know when you can cut corners. Can you throw down a cybernetics core, for instance, and maybe even get your Stargate out before the first cannon comes down? The old way people used to play the game, it really came down to, you always have a cannon. You always play safe. But as people have gotten more advanced in this game, people have really started to cut corners. And I think we see with the Forge in the back, he is going to make the cybernetics core, by the way, at the entrance.
I like that. You know, when you lose the +1 upgrade, like oftentimes we'll see that if it's a Hydra bus, you might lose the +1 attack or the +1 armor that's on the way. But keeping that back there will keep your upgrades on time, basically, no matter what. So I do like that type of play. It feels really greedy and nice here from Stork, who's senior on 5 Zealots, doesn't have a cannon yet. We're 4 minutes, 20 seconds into the game. I like it. I think Stork has opened this beautifully.
Yeah. He delays the wall in. He knows, okay, the speedlings weren't going to come. He would have seen Zerglings with speed with that probe. So he gets the cybernetics core a little bit later, starts his +1 attack, and I think we'll see a cannon next, but some players are crazy enough they'll just get the Stargate next. So he throws the cannon down. And this is a really good play. I mean, Stork, I like the position that he's in. This is very manageable. His +1 attack, like you said, Tastosis, won't be denied. That is a big issue that really messes up your whole tempo in the game. If that Forge is attacked, you might be asking yourself, well, what about the cybernetics core? You can kind of live without it if you get the rest of your tech up. And because you know you could get this later, you're pretty much always going to get your Stargate and your Citadel up. And you only need a Citadel to make a Templar Archives, by the way. You do not need to have the cybernetics core and the Citadel.
Very, very true. And, if you do end up losing it, you're in kind of like a weird situation anyways. Maybe you just want to make more Zealots there to try to punish your opponent, who obviously is gone for like really heavy Hydra at that point. Either way, we have the Citadel coming up, a second gas, as well as, I believe that's a secondary cannon there. Quite a few speedlings coming forward, but they can't do anything. I feel like he's just waiting for the Zealots to move out. Like, the number of Zealots is getting high enough that he's saying, you know what, these are going to come, and I need to surround them, and I need to eliminate them.
Well, Hero isn't really doing anything aggressive at all. He is going to get mutas. He has a second gas coming down here. Or I don't know if 100% if he's going to get mutas. That second gas maybe could be a little bit late.
I think you're right, though.
Well, the fact that he hid the extractor at the middle base is a really smart move, because that's going to get it scouted last. So I think it's a muta hatch.
I believe you're right. Yeah, he just spent a ton of gas, so it has to be.
Yeah. So the Corsair, what you're looking for when you come in like that, you're looking at that extractor. And when you don't see it, you turn around. And you don't have enough time to go check the third base before the Scourge come out. And you really don't want to lose a Corsair to the Scourge. Now, he's going to go for it anyways.
Well, quite a few Scourge
Did
going
he see
up.
It?
He adds a second Stargate. He definitely saw it. He definitely knows what's going on right now. Is there going to be enough cannons to actually hold on, though? Because what's the Corsair count? He's got 2 Corsairs, I believe, and no cannons really guarding the natural mineral line right now.
Yeah, he might just have to take some losses here at the natural. But when you see the mutas come in like this, you know what you're up against. It's all about trying to leash the Scourge onto your Corsairs and pull them into the cannons. And so there's this dance we're going to see. Now, dude, the cannon's not done in his main, so this is really bad. You have to have the first cannon done so that you can cover the second cannon that you needed to have warp in.
Ooh.
And so this is mission accomplished here for the Zerg. Not a win in the game, but like this is what you wanted to do, because now he could perch above the Stargate and just kill Corsairs as they come out with the Mutas and or Scourge.
This is super rough for Stork. So he does go for a counterattack. He has the +1, so the Zerglings are getting shredded very, very quickly, maybe trying to reenact what we saw in the previous game. Luckily for Stork, he does have a second Stargate as natural, but he's not mining from that main. He's losing a lot of structures, and I'm not sure how much damage these Zealots are going to get done this time.
This is a problem. He does actually get enough Corsairs to fight this. I kind of missed. I think we all kind of missed what happened there in the last few seconds, but he did chase him out. So he didn't lose control of the main, which is big. He did lose the Stargate, but there was a second Stargate made. So he still has some muscle out here to try to fight this. The Scourge are very successful at targeting down the Corsairs. Another Corsair comes up because, of course, it was two-port Corsair that's coming out here. Zerg is still committed to making air, and so you could still try to dive in again. I think the natural is a no-go, but the main is a possibility for the Zerg to hit.
Well, he has 3 or 4 Corsairs right now. A lot more Scourge came out. He is warping in a couple cannons, so if those cannons get up, maybe he can stabilize and make a real game out of this, because the Zealots did at least do some damage there in the main, right? The counterattack wasn't 100% thwarted. Hoping that he can hold on, but this is a scary attack from Hero.
Okay, only 2 cannons might not cut it. He can probably chase the Corsairs all the way to the very top right corner. Yeah, there's really nowhere they can go. It seems like Stork decides it's better to just target down the Mutas. This is a skill I'm always fascinated by the way. Players that know when to hit the Scourge versus when to just hit the Mutas. Like in that moment, he just gives up whatever Corsairs are left over and tries to target down to destroy the sustainability. Oh no!
Well, that certainly wasn't good. The Zealots did make it into the main base, so they're harassing the drones a little bit. The Mutas come back to deal with those. The Mutas did take some reasonable damage there, and just looking at it, it looks to me like we have a reasonable probe count, but look at the amount of drones that Hero's pumping out right now. Hero has to be ahead.
I really like this game for Hero. The fact that Protoss was able to recuperate and keep the main alive is nice. Honestly, the biggest, that is so many, that's actually too many drones at his third base. That's like not the right amount. He needs to transfer that. The fact that he lost the Corsairs is actually what worries me, weirdly enough.
Yeah.
Because now the Zerg can go right back to Mass Muta and go into Hydra. And the problem is like Corsairs absolutely can beat Mutas over time. But the Corsairs cost so much gas, you do need Templars eventually. And the threat of Hydras massing up it's inevitable.
You know, he's still having to make those Corsairs. The Muta's still pretty damaged. He's bringing up some Scourge with them. I think that the Muta damage is like almost done, but I am afraid for when Hero switches his macro over, because that 4th hatch is on the way. He's got like 1 million drones. I can't believe how many drones he did end up making. So his macro is going to be out of control here. And in fact, he's already up 20 supply.
Yeah, that's pretty sick. Also, this bottom left base is going to be taken. That's almost the scariest part of all. And the Protoss can't scout it, by the way. When you lose the Corsairs in that high of a number, it's really hard to scout. Not that you generally want to be roaming the map with Corsairs if they're massing Mutas. I believe these are armor Mutas as well. But he's only going to just now find out with the DT. And the hatchery is already finished, so it's really hard to ever kill this. So what he does is he just hides the DT, and he wants to kill drones. But the Overlord sees it, and so Hero pumps the brakes on those drones.
Unfortunate. Maybe that could have been a great move to randomly snipe all the drones. But Hydra's coming down to help clean this up. And he's only going to end up getting 1 kill with that Dark Templar. Far fewer than he needed.
And this just looks like a very feeble Stork leaving his base. Like, he doesn't really have a lot, right? In fact, he might just lose the air fight straight up. The Templars are not protected, so he can 2-shot these Templars.
It does seem like the Corsairs are really starting to destroy those Mutalisks, but up come the Hydras now. Not a very large standing army here for Stork. Mostly Zealot Hydra. I mean, Zealot High Templar, but against this many Hydras, it is going to be really difficult for him to do anything. I'd like to see him try to take like his third gas and recuperate through defense, but it feels like he wants to attack.
He wants to attack. I mean, there are just so many Hydras, and all you got to do is be real active with moving them. He's got the Mutas in here. He doesn't find the targets. He decides to pull away. 3 Storms are baited out. Dude, there's so many Hydralisks out here. I just can't see a world where you can overpower this. I think even if Hero stops microing now, he still wins.
Yeah, I think you're right about that.
Like,
oh, man.
Yeah, he can't do it.
The Zealots are just being evaporated. There's simply not enough units here for Stork. He's going to start to pull back. He did bring a probe up to this third base location, but Heroes really hit his macro. He droned so heavily after that damage to the main base, and Stork didn't really have the window he was looking for. You know, you want to catch Zerg while they're droning on your attacks. And unfortunately, Hero was already done. He was already in macro mode, and the amount of Hydras is just absurd.
It's a very easy game from here for Hero. You can see Stork's going to try to come out and control 3 o'clock. He might get 3 o'clock, but I still don't know that he can take this game. In that amount of time, I think the Zerg can not only dominate the bottom left, I think he could take maybe 9 o'clock, maybe the top left. I mean, there's a lot of map to be taken right now. And the reality is, unless Stork is going to push out of his own third base, he would have to go all the way around to the middle of the map. That's a really long travel distance. And the Zerg could just counterattack it to the third. I mean, this just looks like a strategic nightmare here for Stork.
Doesn't feel like there's really a correct answer for him here as Hero continues to push up into that third base, sending Hydras around to hit the natural as well. And most of the units for Stork are up here, so he's got to be careful about this. Oh, man, 3 High Templars out in the front might get picked. Can Stork get those storms off? All right, 1, 2, a couple pretty good storms there, but with only a couple cannons and both sides under attack, I think this game's about to end.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing else to be said here. This is GG. Stork taps out, and Hero survives Group B and moves on to the round of 16.
You know, this is who I thought would end up advancing. I looked at this and said, okay, I think Hero probably first, Mind probably second, Stork probably third. But that is how it ends up overall at the end of the day. We have Mind and Hero advancing. Stork not quite strong enough. But I think that this is basically his level. He's like a top 24 player in the world, but not quite a top 16.
Yeah. We are always going to be ready with another ASL to welcome him back. But right now, you know, he just doesn't have it. He just does not have what he needs to advance further. I think even in best of threes, he wouldn't make it. And Hero, clearly the better player. He played a great game. I love that hidden second extractor at the third base. It's these subtle things the best players in the world do that really allow them to get the leg up on these other guys that are just so experienced as well.
They're actually showing exactly what you were talking about. He went right in, checked the geyser. He's trying to figure out what's going on. Nothing looks too out of place. And if he had those additional couple cannons that the Mutas flew in and killed before they were before they were warped in, Stork may have been able to take this game, right? Like he was on the right track. It's just he didn't have the defense and took too much damage.
It's also cool to see he came in from this angle. I thought he would go loop all the way around, and you can see that he just Stork wasn't prepared with another cannon. You make one cannon no matter what because it's still not clear what's happening, but he just got in there and did the damage. And once you lose this, oh, interesting, he goes for the Templar Archives first. Oh, okay, he actually switches it up. I was going to say, I don't remember him killing that in the game. But yeah, once you're on top of the Stargate, you just start to kill the Corsairs. Stork would have already lost the game had he not made a second Stargate.
Yes, very much so. So unfortunate there for Stork. I really do hope he returns to his peak of gaming and is a player that can get into the finals again. But I tell you, this guy definitely can. Hero been there to the top of the tournament so many times. Time for an interview with him to see how he's feeling about that win.
ASL 시즌 17 24강 비조 경기 모두 함께 하셨습니다.
We've just wrapped up our games for Group B of the round of 24 of ASL 17. Let's meet our second place finisher, Hero, the Zerg. Congratulations. Thank you. Save for the VANT National Star League, you managed to stamp your name on the round of 16 of every single season of ASL so far. Now your history in the ASL really is something to behold. How do you feel now that you've managed to punch through yet another round of 24? Well, I really thought I would end up losing this time. It was really scary. But once I actually came to the studio and I started playing, I regained all my confidence and I ended up doing everything I wanted to do. Things went okay. While your colleagues who came to support you here today don't seem overly pleased with you saying you thought you would lose, what made you think that? I don't know. I've been losing a bunch recently. I can't quite put my finger on it. I guess if you end up losing a bunch, your confidence goes down. And to be honest, I'm not the biggest fan of the maps we have right now. So if I can't win the whole tournament, then getting knocked out early isn't that big of a deal. But then I got playing and I enjoyed it, so good thing I made it through. Hero, please stop breaking your fans' hearts with your answers. It's a good thing you persevered today and you managed to advance having played all three matchups. And the matchup you had said you were the most worried about, the ZVZ against Killer, well, you maintained your composure against his rush and then managed to hit a very quick link timing yourself. Yeah, I don't think 9-pull is the way for me. I'm really hopeless at build order mowing games. I almost always lose. But it was my confidence and the fact that I knew it wouldn't be right for me to be losing again. And thankfully it was cross-spawn, so it made it easier for me to hold. Well, you might have stopped Killer's attack with ease, but then again, you got hit with a forward barracks by Mind in the winners match. How did you feel after that game was over? Well, this is the stuff I lose to every day. This also happens every season, so going into the elimination match, I knew I had to play very safe, or as safe as I could. But then that ZVT, well, this is something that gets me every time, so it would seem I need to put some more thought into figuring Terran out, play a bit safer. Well, you've learned a very valuable lesson today, and you did show great effort to play a safe game against Stork, as you've just said. Still, you went for a quick gas and utilized your Mutalisks very well. Yeah, I ended up taking up very quickly, quicker than I thought I would in that game, so whenever that happens, you can usually get something done with the Mutalisks. I also ended up fighting the Corsairs very well, so that was the reason I won. A lot of fans are of a single mind, or were of a single mind, that you should advance to the round of 16, regardless of your condition or current form. And now that you've regained your confidence and you should confidently stroll into the best of threes of the round of 16, correct? Well, there are still things lacking from my play. I need to practice a bit more, and I want to be more confident going into the round of 16. I would also like to thank my JSA colleagues and students for cheering me on, and friends online as well. Now, we are in the middle of another university league, so I hope JSA does well. And a thank you to my fans for cheering me on. Okay, congratulations once again. I also had a lot of players who helped me prepare. Oh, was that what you were trying to recall now? Yeah. It was Miso, Saxry, Sack, Royal, who else? Ample, and YSC. Thank you for practicing with me. Once again, congratulations, and we'll see you at the group selection ceremony for the round of 16. Thank you.
자, 이렇게 24강 B조의 두 번째 16강 진출자.
And there you have your second place finisher of Group B of the round of 24 in Hero.
Day of ASL is done. I gotta say, it is nice to see Hero advance. He's been extremely consistent over basically all the ASLs we've had. This is easily one of our best players ever.
Yeah.
Sad to see Stork go, but look, the games speak for themselves.
They do. They do. He did get a bit outplayed there. Definitely made some mistakes. It was a tough game against Hero, I think, specifically. Against Mind, I think he made more mistakes than against Hero. But anyways, our next matchup is going to be Best, Tengu, Action, and Sok. This is one of my favorite groups that is here. Sok is in great shape. He's going to be really underrated for a lot of fans watching because he missed the last couple ASLs, but he is in fantastic, fantastic shape. And of course, Best in Action, if they don't get top 8, something's wrong.
Tengu, I've casted a couple of his games on my YouTube. He's been very active.
Yep.
He is looking like a threat, although we always have to see how it'll actually pan out when he's in the studio with all the people watching. Can he bring that kind of high-caliber play that he already has brought on the ladder? But it should be a lot of fun. I cannot wait to cast it with you, Tastosis.
Absolutely. And, you know, him being the ACS champion, I've been watching him very closely. He has great, great play. He's been top 10 on the ladder for the last year or so. So I hope he can do it. But, I mean, when you're playing against Best in your very first televised match, I don't give anyone a chance doing that.
Yeah, and I think Action's an easy out. I think he just takes it. He's just so good. I would be shocked if he didn't move on. By the way, guys, before we close the show out, one more plug here for the Patreon, patreon.com/ASL English. We love your support. We would not be able to do this without you guys. So if you love StarCraft, if you love us, this is the best way to support what we're doing here now.
Yeah, thank you so much, everyone, for the support over the years here for ASL. Still going strong and hopefully forever. I think that does it for us here today, and we'll see you in Group C.